to order. Roll call, please.
Trustee Benton?
Here.
Trustee Berg?
Here.
Trustee Jacoby?
Here.
Trustee Metz-Childers?
Here.
Trustee Oppenheim?
Here.
Trustee Seiden?
Here.
And Mayor Shapiro is absent, but we have a quorum.
In the absence of Mayor Shapiro, I'd like to call for a motion to elect a mayor pro tem for the meeting.
I move Rebecca.
Second.
Is there any further comment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Elaine.
Hi, everyone. Should we stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance?
Let's do it.
Great. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Eric, do you want to start with the Finance Department 6-month report?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. This is the 6-month report for the Finance Department. The past 6 months have been a busy time as usual. You do get to hear from me every month through the Treasurer's report and actually multiple times today. So some of this is a recap, but also a good spot to look at some forward-looking information. We completed the 2022 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report. It was audited by Baker Tilly. We received a clean audit opinion, which is good. That's what you want, the best you can get. We also received the Government Finance Officers Association Certificate of Excellence in Financial Reporting. We filed the Illinois Department of Insurance Police Pension Report, State Comptroller's Annual Financial Report, and published the Annual Treasurer's Report. And as we come to the end of this year, we'll look to file those same reports for 2023. We are now starting to hear that the shortage of employees is starting to hit the accounting side. So accounting firms are having trouble recruiting CPAs to do audit work, but also in general, or more specifically, governmental audits. So that's driving up the prices. It's causing delays in finalizing returns and also limiting responses when we send out RFPs. Luckily for us, at least for the short term, we're under contract with Baker Tilly till 2026. They've done well for us. They've done good work. A deep firm with a lot of resources, so I don't see it being an issue immediately, but long term we're going to see some changes in that renewal contract. We also received notice that our 2023 budget qualified for the Government Finance Officers Association Distinguished Budget Presentation Award. We developed the proposed budget, tax levy, and capital funding scenarios for the 2024 budget. If all goes well later tonight, we will submit those items to the GFOA for review as well. We completed the regular vehicle sticker sales for the year. We sold approximately 10,500 stickers so far this year. Online purchasing is now closed, but we do still sell stickers here at Village Hall or through the mail if anybody still needs to purchase those stickers. We're able to match the renewals against utility billing information as well as the GIS mapping information. And that's becoming important to us because that revenue stream has been decreasing for the past several years. On the flip side, we did receive approximately $1.6 million in interest income year to date through September. That's up from about $400,000 a year ago for the same time period. A lot of that's due to rates and balances, but we've also made a concentrated effort to capture some of those higher rates while they're available, keeping in mind, of course, the safety, liquidity, yield principles that we stick to. We completed the actuarial valuation for the police pension fund contribution. As expected, the contribution should be about $1.1 million. Next year, we are going to have to look at some of our actuarial assumptions, which we do from time to time anyway. But with the new consolidated fund producing their own valuation, we're going to need to make sure that we're somewhat comparable to that. Moving on to debt management, we made the required debt service payments, which sounds pretty basic, and it is, but that's one of the things that I never want to find out what happens if we miss those payments. We also filed the paperwork to receive our qualified energy conservation bond rebates. That totals about $359,000 coming back into the village, which we turn around and abate off the property tax bill. We completed the spin down of the 2021 bond proceeds. A little bit of good news, bad news here with that. Since the interest rates increased and the spending was delayed, we earned more interest income than we otherwise would have, which is the good news. Bad news side is that there is such a thing as earning too much interest income on unspent bond proceeds. So we're going to do an arbitrage rebate calculation to see whether we owe any of that back to the federal government or if we get to keep it and spend it on the projects that it was originally.
And Aaron and I have talked about this. This is the first time in our careers we've actually been in that position. But
yeah,
it's only 35 years, Eric, so let's...
Learn something new.
Yeah. No new debt expected in 2023 or 2024, and we continue to have a Moody's AAA bond rating, which is the highest you can have. Human Resources falls under the Finance Department. This includes risk management as well as employee wellness. Desiree is our Human Resources expert. She assisted departments in recruiting and hiring several vacant positions recently, and we're currently looking to fill a couple of positions at the police department. In addition to the traditional HR functions, we completed an annual salary survey for the 2024 budget. We organized a flu shot and health screening event along with several lunchtime learning sessions funded through our wellness incentive offered by the Health Insurance Cooperative. We coordinated the Volunteer Engagement Commission, completed benefit renewals and open enrollment for village employees, and represented the village on our 2 insurance cooperatives. We also worked on several other projects. Notable projects there include an upgrade to our utility billing system, which would allow us to actually email out the bills as opposed to just mailing them through the post office. Nice benefit there for our residents that may want to opt into that. There also may be some additional payment options with that. And we're also looking to improve our job application process as well as the employee performance reviews. Both of those processes right now are a little bit manual, and we're looking at improving that with some technology. Finally, we processed 3,000 vendor invoices, generated 2,300 monthly utility bills, processed village, library, and police pension payroll, and 115 cash receipts per working day. So that's 6 months and 3 minutes.
I always like when you do these reports and those numbers are in there.
Right.
3,000 vendor invoice, just the numbers are so big compared to the staff that we have here. So it's always amazing. I also do notice every time you're up here, there is a new award that we've won for our budgeting, which I think the whole village should be very pleased about. So thank you. Any questions? No.
Yeah, there is a string of awards that we've won. Eric, how long has that string gone that we've gotten the GFOA's?
You're going to jinx it.
It's been here every year since I've been here. So, but well past that.
I think
30
we
plus
the underlying message there.
No.
30 plus years. We can.
And since the mid '80s, let me just say that. So
It's amazing.
Yeah.
keep it up, buddy.
Well done. Thanks, Eric.
Thank you.
Minutes of the previous meeting.
Move approval.
Second?
Great. Next is bills and payroll.
I think we have to vote.
Oh, I need a vote. Sorry. I've done this before.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Voice vote. Moving to bills and payroll.
Move approval.
Second.
Roll call.
Roll call vote.
Trustee Oppenheim,
Yes.
Trustee Seiden,
Yes.
Trustee Benton,
Yes?
Trustee Berg,
Yes.
Trustee Jacoby,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Forgot that was me. Do we have any public comment? I don't think anything was on the sheet outside, right? Okay. If not, we'll move to reports. The first one I read this whole thing, right?
You read the title, and I kind of fill it in.
It's a lot of words.
To give you some time.
So Report 23-79, consideration and action on a report and recommendation of the Board of Zoning Appeals concerning relief from Article 2.02-D1 of the Deerfield zoning ordinance for the property located at 560 Briar Hill Road to permit the construction of a new home with a front yard setback of 140 feet in lieu of the minimum 167.5 feet established by averaging as specified by the Deerfield zoning ordinance.
The BZA held a public hearing on October 17, 2023 to consider a request for a front yard setback variation for 560 Briar Hill Road. The petitioner is asking for a 140-foot setback in lieu of a 167.5-foot requirement. Following its consideration, the BZA voted 6-0 to recommend the requested variation. Representatives of the petitioner and the BZA are here tonight. Bob Speckman, the chairman, is here tonight with us. And the petitioners, if you'd raise your hand if you're here tonight to speak on your behalf. It's up to you as to the level of comment you'd like to entertain. Perhaps a summary of the request would be appropriate from the petitioner.
That'd be great.
Good evening. My name is Cal Bernstein. I'm the attorney for the applicants. We had a public hearing at the zoning board a couple weeks ago. There was an extensive conversation with the zoning board at the time, and they decided to vote 6-0 in favor of the request. The request is seeking a variation from the average front yard setback on Briar Hill. The street had many challenges. It was a curving feet, very long. There was a tremendous disparity in the front yard setbacks from the homes. It goes from 106 to 262 feet along the block. So there's not that continuity in the block that you'd like to see with the average front yard setback. And in addition, there's two other variables that played into it. Number one, it was a heavily wooded lot, and there was an attempt to try to save as many trees as possible. And also, it is located right on a fairway of Briar, the country club right next door, and they find a lot of golf balls on this property. So they're trying to keep the improvements and the structures away from the west property line.
Any trustee comments?
I actually, it's funny, I'm very familiar with this property.
Yes,
Kind of back to the other side.
As it happens, I had clients next door. I'm a landscape designer,
Yes.
and so very, very familiar with this part of the street. And the fronts of the houses are just, there's woods. It's a wooded area. And it's funny to see this lot finally developed because it's been vacant a long time.
Yes, it is. I think it's originally fallow. I don't believe there's been a house on it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I'm sure this sounds totally appropriate and will fit right in the neighborhood.
And the applicant's moving from Highland Park, coming home to Deerfield.
Yeah, that's nice. That is nice.
Thank you.
I approve of it too, except I have one question. Did any of the neighbors at all complain about it?
No, in fact, one neighbor appeared at the zoning board unannounced. We didn't know he was coming, and he spoke in favor of it.
But nobody objected?
No.
Well,
Fine.
the next door neighbor is the one who's selling
Yes, they're going to be
property.
There was two homes recently on the
Right.
block that that zoning variances were granted at this 140 feet, and I believe the property on one of the sides is in play and will be sold and probably redeveloped. So you'll most likely hear from another variation request on that property in the future.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Any public comments?
Chair Speckman, is there anything you want to add to the conversation? No, I'm fine, thank you.
Okay. If nothing else, can I get a motion?
Move to approve the report of the BCA.
Second.
Roll call.
Trustee Seiden?
Yes.
Trustee Benton?
Yes.
Trustee Berg?
Yes.
Trustee Jacoby?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
Trustee Oppenheim?
Yes.
Motion passes.
And just to make sure that the motion included direction of preparation of the ordinance so that we're good.
Yep, and we will prepare that for the next meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman.
Okay. So we're moving to the consent agenda. There's two items. I can read them both, yeah? Item 23-761, ordinance approving a special use permit for dwelling units above the ground floor, an amendment to a special use permit for a commercial planned unit development, and an amendment to a final development plan
to permit the redevelopment of 728 Waukegan Road with second-floor residential units. And the second item is 23-771, ordinance authorizing the Portillo's restaurant request for approval of a new digital menu board pursuant to Article 9.02-B 14A of the Deerfield zoning ordinance for their restaurant located at 700 Lake Cook Road.
Move approval.
Second.
Roll call.
Trustee Benton?
Yes.
Trustee Berg?
Yes.
Trustee Jacoby?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
Trustee Oppenheim?
Yes.
Trustee Seiden?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. We're moving to old business. The first is Report 23-80, ordinance adopting the budget for the Village of Deerfield for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2024, and ending December 31st, 2024. Back to you, Eric.
Tonight, we're requesting final approval for the 2024 budget. The proposed budget was placed on file at Village Hall for public inspection and posted to the Village website. It was discussed in detail at two Committee of the Whole meetings on September 26th and October 2nd. A public hearing was held during the November 6th board meeting, which was advertised in the September 21st Deerfield Review. Changes discussed at those Committee of the Whole meetings and the executive session are reflected in tonight's material. I've received no public comments since the public hearing, and happy to answer any questions there may be.
Did you say you received no public comment?
I talked to you, Bill, but we didn't. I didn't get any.
Just trustee.
Other than trustee comments, I did not get any public comments.
That's great.
Anything else from the trustees? Any public comments on the budget? Great. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Trustee Berg?
Yes.
Trustee Jacoby?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
Trustee Oppenheim?
Yes.
Trustee Seiden?
Yes.
Trustee Benton?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you for staying there, and then staying there, and then also staying there. Next item is 23-84, resolution adopting a consolidated fee schedule for fiscal year 2024.
This item was included for reference as part of the budget hearing, also here tonight for approval. Updates to the fee schedule have been developed and discussed throughout the budget meetings and are reflected in the budget that was just approved.
Any comments? No? Public comments?
What we talked about.
Nope. Can I get a motion?
Move approval of the fee schedule.
Second.
Roll call.
Trustee Jacoby?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
Trustee Oppenheim?
Yes.
Trustee Seiden?
Yes.
Trustee Benton?
Yes.
Trustee Berg?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. Item 23-85, ordinance amending the Village of Deerfield wage and salary plan and establishing the compensation of officers and employees for the fiscal year 2024 for the Village of Deerfield.
Similar to the fee schedule, the changes to the wage and salary plan were developed and discussed as a part of the 2024 budget meetings and executive session. These changes are also reflected in the budget that was just approved.
Trustee comments or questions?
Move approval.
Second.
Roll call.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
Trustee Oppenheim?
Yes.
Trustee Seiden?
Yes.
Trustee Benton?
Yes.
Trustee Berg?
Yes.
Trustee Jacoby?
Yes.
Motion passes.
One more.
Okay, so we'll move to new business. We're going to move to a public hearing on the proposed 2023 tax levy. Can I get a motion to open the tax levy public hearing?
So move.
Second.
How do I do a voice vote? It's a voice vote, right?
Yes.
How do I do that? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thanks.
Tonight's hearing was published, or it was advertised in the November 10th Deerfield Review. The 2023 proposed tax levy was developed during the 2024 budget process and discussed in detail at the Committee of the Whole meetings. The net village levy totals $8,422,932, which includes the abatements of $359,239. That's the qualified energy conservation bonds that we talked about briefly earlier. We estimate that a $500,000 home in Deerfield will pay approximately $925 of property tax to the village. The village is also required to pass the library's levy, which totals $5,297,200. We do have a representative from the library here tonight if there's any questions on their levy. Otherwise, the total net levy, including village, library, and abatements, is $13,720,132.
Trustee comments? Any questions?
It's what we talked about, and I feel very comfortable that we're trying to keep the taxes low, and even as we need to levy more each year, I'm very comforted by that number that we all look at, which is the effect on a medium-priced house, that it's going up $20 a year, which is for the amount of infrastructure that we need to replace and repair and all the other services and things that we have to pay more money for. I feel like we're getting good value.
Any public comments? Okay, can I get a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, thanks, Eric. Next item in new business, 23-81, resolution to approve the J.K. Wilmot subdivision improvements. Over to you, Tyler.
Good evening, Board. Mayor Pro Tem. In 2016, the Village Board approved an 8-house subdivision located at 200 block of Wilmot Road, officially referred to as J.K. Wilmot Re-Subdivision. Samantha's Way, as it's commonly referred to, encompassed or involved many different aspects of a subdivision: roadway, water, sanitary, sewer, sidewalk, many common elements, including also subdivision lighting. Each of these aspects and items were clearly defined as future maintenance responsibilities of either the Village of Deerfield or the Homeowners Association. Over the last 7 years, utilities were installed, roads were built, homes constructed, and ultimately occupied, and the developer is now in a point of their process to turn over the subdivision to the village and the Homeowners Association. Over the last year, the village has met with the HOA on numerous occasions, had many different Q&As with respect to what the future maintenance would look for the HOA. They're on board with what they need to do, and they are willing to do that. So, and primarily the village would assume maintenance of the roadway, sidewalk, water, sewer, and then the HOA would mainly be responsible for the detention storm system in the rear of the properties. With any private development, when you increase the size of the impervious, stormwater considerations are part of the design approval. This detention system does reside in the back of these yards, hence why they are responsible for the maintenance moving forward. Therefore, at this time, staff recommends that the Village Board adopt the resolution to approve the J.K. Wilmot Re-Subdivision development.
Why did it take 7 years?
It's a very good question. I think homes were predominantly done in 19/20. We actually were looking to come to the board at this point last year, but the HOA, there were just some more education, I think, explanation for these homeowners that we needed to do on our end. Usually it doesn't take that long.
And they're on board now?
Yes. Yeah, we had a hands-on. We met with the residents. We popped manhole lids, explained exactly what was needed to be done, what was being turned over, and then also what the village would be doing moving forward. So we feel like it was a very fruitful exercise.
I think maybe as a further explanation, when a new homeowner comes to buy a property, they don't understand all the obligations that sometimes come with that, especially in a subdivision like this where there are HOA requirements, and you have to explain it to them, and they have to understand it. And it's a unique property, it's a unique subdivision, like many in Deerfield, but it comes with joint responsibilities, right. And they have to understand that. They get a great home and a great neighborhood, but then you mean I got to help pay for that in the future? It just takes some time.
Are all the houses sold? And
yeah.
Yep. People are living in all of them already?
Yep.
They've been.
Yeah, they've been in there for a couple years at least.
So Tyler, just not to appear ignorant, but the actual roadway in the bulb of the cul-de-sac is now, it is a public street. That is not a private street.
That's correct. It will be, yes, upon this
It
approval.
will
So
be
it's a
upon
right-of-way,
this.
just like any other road in the village, or most of them, I should say that. We will maintain any water mains in there, sanitary sewers, the storm sewer as it relates to the roadway drainage. It's just the exterior around the buildings and these
Right.
the rear properties where they have the detention elements that ultimately does fall to the HOA.
Who's been maintaining those elements up to this point?
Mostly everything's been maintenance-free. With the new subdivision, we haven't had any issues with any of the utilities. We have been, as a courtesy, been plowing the road in the winter. That's been the main, I guess, asset that we've had to maintain, just plowing the roads. We had took that over, I think, a couple years ago, once pretty much it was all completed as a courtesy to the residents because they were receiving, I would say, subpar snow and ice control.
Thank you.
Speaking as perhaps one of the only trustees that live in a development with a homeowners association, there is a great deal of misunderstanding with people who move in, especially when they move into a development that didn't have a homeowners association. And they are looking for the kind of services that the village provides. We have to explain to them that it doesn't work that way. So I'm well acquainted with what they have to do and how they have to do it.
Any public comments? No? Can I get a motion?
Move approval of the resolution.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Sorry. Trustee Oppenheim.
Yes.
Trustee Seiden.
Yes.
Trustee Benton.
Yes?
Trustee Berg.
Yes.
Trustee Jacoby.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, another one for you, Tyler. 23-82, resolution for 2024 MFT, which is motor fuel tax.
Yep.
Perfect. Did some reading. Street rehabilitation project.
Yep. So as we've discussed with the village board in the past committee of the whole meetings, next year's street rehab project will be funded through a combination of MFT, motor fuel tax, and also Rebuild Illinois bonds. The Illinois Department of Transportation are the ones that facilitate these funds, and part of their requirement as far as expending the funds is providing this resolution signed by the village board, basically stating what we plan to do with it, making sure that it meets those MFT guidelines. There are certain things we can spend this money on and certain things we cannot. And that's same to be said with the RBI funds. They follow the MFT guidelines. So water main, as it's owned by the village, that's not an item that we can spend it on. However, roadway reconstruction, so long as it meets a 13-year life cycle, that is something we can do. So we have predominantly, historically, always spent it on street rehab, putting it back into the roads. So I've got a real quick list. We have yet to go out to bid. We are looking to go out to bid for street rehab here in the next probably 3 to 4 weeks, hoping to bring it to you folks in January. So pending that bid coming back, we've got Country Lane, Gordon Terrace, Rosewood, Mallard, Orchard is going to be a resurface, so that's just right off of Waukegan Road, Millstone, Shagburg, Fox Hunt, and then Smoke Tree. So we've got about a $4 million project between those two funding mechanisms. MFT will include about $2.75 million, and then RBI or Rebuild Illinois grants will equate to about $1.24 million. So just under $4 million for next year. Again, hoping to come to you folks here in the next couple months for that approval. So at this point, we're requesting the Mayor and Village Board adopt the MFT resolution for the 2024 street rehab project.
Can you talk a little more about the scope of work and the timing for that?
Yep. So if we go out, come to you in probably January, we'll start whenever the spring will allow us to start. Usually it's around May. Obviously, that'll depend on the contractor, too, if they have other obligations they need to accomplish. But we would hope to be out by April or May, actually performing the construction. Most of it is a full recon. So all new curbs, all new sidewalk if it's a carriage walk, which is right up against the curb. Storm sewer improvements, not a full replacement, but storm sewer improvements, inlets, laterals, drainage, things like that. And then also just a brand new roadway. So it's pretty intensive. There will be some resurfacing areas where we can do that. Not all of our roads are capable to be resurfaced just because of the existing, what they did in the 60s, 70s, 80s. It doesn't allow us to do that resurfacing, which is a lot more bang for your buck. It's just we don't have that ability in all of the road locations.
And just a quick note, this is paid for through the gas taxes that you and I all pay when we go to the pump. This isn't village tax levy. This comes from the taxes that part of the gas prices that we all pay motor fuel tax. It's kind of redundant, but you and I are paying for this, so it's a returning of those dollars back home.
Which is nice.
Yep, and there's zero local share next year proposed.
This is a lot of work in a lot of discrete places, separate places. We have had trouble this past year when we got the bids for
The prices, right?
reconstruction work on roads where we just couldn't do work. My assumption is because these are grants and this is MFT money coming back, this needs to be spent in the next year, correct?
I mean, obviously, if it comes back $8 million, we might have to rethink our situation. But we do think with the economy of scale, last year, if you remember, it was about a $400,000 project. We've added a zero to that total. We do think we're going to get a little bit more bang for our buck, so to speak, and be able to, and maybe this is just a new reality, too.
Right.
We don't know. Last year was just the size of the project. We didn't feel comfortable awarding it. Give it another shot this year, and we'll see where we land up.
And if we have to, we scale back
Correct.
on the scope of the work, which is what we've always done.
Yep.
Right.
So you may see this go from 10 to 8, pending that bid.
Right.
That bid number.
Any other comments or questions from the trustees? No? Public? Arnold?
A couple of those streets really do need the work.
No.
More than a couple.
Brought my cheerleader.
Thanks,
Arnold.
bad. They haven't been done like in about close to years.
Some of them.
Glad to have the funds. Thank you. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Trustee Benton?
Yes?
Trustee Berg?
Yes.
Trustee Jacoby?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
Trustee Oppenheim?
Yes.
Trustee Seiden?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. The next one I know is very similar, Ryan. It's
Yep.
23-83 resolution for 2024 Rebuild Illinois Bond Street Rehabilitation Project.
Yeah, so this is pretty much the exact same thing, same requirements, same resolution. The only thing I would add is this is the last of our RBI bonds, or the full expenditure. So MFT is an annual thing that we get. Obviously, the RBI bonds, this would be exhausting that amount.
Any comments?
Just want to acknowledge and support the state of Illinois and Governor Pritzker approved the Rebuild Illinois Bond Program 2 years ago. Representative Morgan, Senator Morrison, very strong in favor of this. Yes, it's political. On the other hand, it helps us fix our streets. So we want to thank them for their efforts and support of us on this one.
Move approval?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Berg?
Yes.
Trustee Jacoby?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
Trustee Oppenheim?
Yes.
Trustee Seiden?
Yes.
Trustee Benton?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thanks,
Thank
Tyler.
you.
Next item, 23-86, resolution approving the waiver of competitive bidding and the purchase of 10 police vehicles from Highland Park Ford and emergency equipment from Havy Communications. Chris?
Hi, Mayor Pro Tem and Board. Thank you. The Police Department is here tonight seeking approval of a resolution waiving the competitive bidding process and allowing the Police Department authorization to purchase 10 marked police vehicles. As a common theme you've heard over the last couple of years, it's becoming more and more difficult to purchase these vehicles. So in 2025 fiscal year, we are scheduled to replace 8 of our marked police vehicles, and we are seeking to replace all 8 of those and add 2 to the fleet, bringing it to a total of 10 marked police vehicles. This request is being made well in advance of the scheduled replacement due to the volatility of the car market and unavailability of these vehicles. The department, we've had conversations with Ford, as we did a few months ago when we were buying a couple unmarked vehicles, and we were told that in order to hopefully receive these vehicles in the spring of 2025, we need to get this order in before the end of the year. So due to the current state with no state bids being in place, we contacted Highland Park Ford, who we've dealt with before. We bought our last fleet through them, spoke to them about this as well. They said that in order to obtain pricing, they were going off of the 2024 vehicles. They said that the 2025 Ford Explorer will be approximately $50,000 per car based on those current pricing. So the 10 vehicles would cost approximately $500,000. In those discussions, we did ask about the hybrid vehicles as well. They said don't even ask for it because they said it's going to take, you might even lose your order because they're just unavailable at this time. So they said right now you got to stick with the gas motors, which is what this proposal is for. In addition to those vehicles, the police department would need to purchase the emergency equipment for them. And we contacted our current vendor, Havy Communications of Lake Bluff, and talked to them about this purchase and installation of the equipment. They also gave us an approximate estimate of $15,000 per car for the purchase and installation of this equipment. So for the 10 vehicles, it would be approximately $150,000 for that equipment and the installation. So in summary, the police department's recommending approval of the resolution, waiving the competitive bidding process, and authorizing the police department to order the 10 2025 Ford Explorers and necessary emergency equipment from Highland Park Ford and Havy Communications in the approximate total cost of $650,000.
Trustee questions,
I
comments?
have a question. So since we just need the 8 and you're getting 10, do we try for hybrids for the 2 that we don't need so soon?
Well, we're adding those 2 based on, and you'll hear in a moment, we're adding some staffing potentially, and just based on increase in demands of services. We have the 2 SROs that are, assigned to schools, and then just the unfortunate realization that the car is mechanical and technologically we have issues where they go out of service. So that's why we're adding those 2 vehicles to the fleet.
And in your estimation, we don't have an additional year or more to wait to see if we can get hybrids?
They're
We
saying
really need these vehicles by spring of 2030?
we
whenever,
will.
25?
Unfortunately, the mileage is getting up that we're starting to see a lot more of the mechanical type breakdowns.
Yeah.
We feel that the cars just aren't being made quite as sturdy and as durable as maybe they used to be. And we're feeling that if we wait too long, we may be in a position where we're out vehicles and not even having that availability.
Well, I mean, I don't think any of us would dream of advocating that we do anything that's not safe
Yeah.
for a police vehicle. I mean, but in terms of just trying to try as hard as we can to get hybrids, I'm with Elaine if there was some way we could push it out. But in your estimation, there's no way to do it.
Yeah, and that was the same discussion I had in the fall when we were buying the administrative vehicles, as we were inquiring, trying to get the hybrids. And they said the same thing. They said right now they're so far behind in just meeting the demand of current orders that they said you're running the risk of them canceling your order altogether and just saying this is what we've got going. So we keep asking, we keep trying, and we'll see where this takes us in the future. But
we will keep asking and keep trying, as you know.
It's becoming an unfortunate common theme with these and trying to plan ahead and prepare.
Yeah.
And I do know that other departments have tried to bring in hybrids.
Yeah.
And it hasn't worked. I mean, I'm thinking, I don't want to name names, but I can think of a town just south of Highland Park in northern Lake County.
There was some challenges.
That brought them in, and they just couldn't keep it mechanically. They just couldn't make it work, and for whatever reason, the current models just aren't ready to go.
I've heard the same thing.
And we all want them to be,
right?
But we're just not quite there yet. And
Absolutely.
when they're ready to go, I think we're all for it.
Yeah, and these again are approximate estimate prices right now because we are about a year out. So we're hoping that these are the high end pricing and that it'll actually come in a little bit below. But these are estimates at this time. We'll come back before you at that time once we get those hard numbers.
And we're covered, Ben, just by doing a waiver of competitive bidding that we can handle it this way.
You can. Sorry. Yep, you can do the waiver, and the way the resolution's written is that it's a total amount not to exceed $500,000 for the cars and $150,000 for the equipment. So, barring a surprise that the price is coming higher, in which case
you come back and you get
come back and ask for
Yeah.
additional approval. But you certainly do it this way.
Yeah. No, it's just that traditionally we go with what the county and all our
neighbors.
groups, our neighbors,
right,
what we do,
right.
we try to, get bids in a group things, and it's like the Wild West now, purchasing equipment and vehicles.
It's frustrating trying to predict the future as to what's going to be available and what we have opportunities to get.
But I also think what you're seeing here is, and we're going to talk about the next item, we need to increase capacity because there's uncertainty, whether that's the number of officers, the number of cars, because it's just it's too uncertain.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't not have these guys in cars on the street.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely not.
So,
I don't think.
No, we're not asking it, but that's that weird thing we got to deal with 110% now, not 100%.
Is the emergency equipment package comparable to what the vehicles have now?
Yes.
If there's new equipment available between now and delivery,
That incorporates the potential that some stuff has to be replaced because there's a chance that the body style could change from the 25 Ford Explorer. They haven't specifically said that, but there's some debate about whether or not that's going to occur. So he gave us this price saying that should that occur, that this is, again, a kind of a worst-case scenario as far as that estimate, and that would allow any purchase of stuff to accommodate and fit into those new style bodies.
Thank you.
I've got two comments. I read recently where some people are criticizing the electric cars because of the batteries, that they're a little bit bad as far as the whole thing goes.
Good.
And they are going to get better, though, hopefully. Second, tell me again why we didn't get competitive bidding.
Because they're all estimating at this point, and so nobody really knows a price at this point because it's 2 years out. It's a 25 model, so they're giving us an estimate based on what they're seeing the 24 prices at, and because there's no state bid, we reached out. Highland Park Ford was who we bought our last fleet from, so we trusted. And actually, at that time, they beat the state bid, so we went back with them.
Okay.
We have a lot to say about the cars. Anybody out there have anything to say about cars?
Because we buy cars.
Yeah.
Well,
something, yes.
It's a pretty critical function that we provide for our residents. So, we're pretty vested in it. So I'd be happy to move approval of the waiver of competitive bidding and the purchase of 10 police vehicles from Highland Park Ford with the amount not to exceed. Is that how we want to do it, estimated or not to exceed?
Not to exceed.
Not to exceed $500,000. And purchase of the emergency equipment at estimated cost of $150,000.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Second.
Oh, that's sorry, I got it.
Trustee Jacoby?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
Trustee Oppenheim?
Yes.
Trustee Seiden?
Yes.
Trustee Benton?
Yes.
Trustee Berg?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Last item in new business, 23-87, ordinance increasing the number of sergeants and patrol officers in the Deerfield Police Department.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Board. The Police Department is seeking board approval of an ordinance to increase sworn officer staffing. If you can recall, late last year, Commander Gloaz retired from the Communications Center. And part of our discussion in the executive session on October 2nd was to increase our sergeant staff, which would allow the placement of a sergeant into that communication director's position, at the same time keeping our patrol level at the same level. That was subsequently approved by the village manager and the board for that increase, which would increase our staffing from 41 to 42, which would be 1 chief of police, 12 sergeants, and 29 patrolmen. We are subsequently now asking for the addition of another officer to increase one additional officer. Our only increases over the last 20 years have been for our community school resource officers for District 113 and 109. So basically over 20 years we've never increased our staff. Part of our reason for wishing to increase our staff is the effects of the Safety Act, which requires a lot of additional training, which takes officers off the street. The increased number of housing units that have been built and the potential of more being built. The increase in the traffic volume with those new housing developments. The large corporate headquarters that are still in town. This is another big one, is our participation in all the regional task force. Those task force are being called out, unfortunately, a lot more, which then takes our officers off the street to where we have to supplement that aspect of it. In addition, just the technology requirements. We started the drone program that's throughout the area. This is one of the unfortunate ones, is the lack of quality police officers that are applicants for the job of police officer. Our current list, after doing the test, we have 3 officers on the list. Our prior list, we had 2. So it's wanting to look a little bit forward in order to keep the staffing up at the adequate levels. The duration of the training and the hiring process from test to when the officer is actually going to be on the road could be anywhere from 9 to 12 months before that officer is any benefit to the police department. This is another one we've run across too, is the increase in mobility of officers where they can take their pensions and go other places up at pretty much whenever they want at this point. And then the unannounced retirements is some of the criteria and our reasoning for the increase of another patrol officer. So the department is respectfully requesting you to consider the ordinance and to readily increase the staff of the police department. If you approve, the increase would require the following changes of the ordinance, which was provided to 1 chief of police, 12 sergeants, and 30 patrol officers, which would bring us up to a full-time staff of 43. So,
When did you say was the last time there was an increase to the?
about 20 years ago. Wow. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Outside of the school resource
offices,
Yeah.
right?
So,
But on the streets.
And just want to confirm, the manager's office fully supports the request.
Any questions or comments from trustees?
Move approval.
Second.
Sorry, who made the motion?
Bill. Yep. Roll call, please.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
Trustee Oppenheim?
Yes.
Trustee Seiden?
Yes.
Trustee Benton?
Yes.
Trustee Berg?
Yes.
Trustee Jacoby?
Yes.
Motion passes.
thank you.
Thank you. Items for discussion by Mayor, Board of Trustees. Anything trustees want to raise? No?
There was a lovely interfaith ceremony. We have it every year. Yesterday, the Presbyterian Church hosted it, and Bob came and spoke in replacement of Dan, who's out of town. Nancy Roderin spoke from Highland Park, and there were faith leaders from all of the different faiths in this area, everybody coming together, in a ceremony of thanksgiving and unity, and it was lovely. It always is. And I'm glad we do this every year.
And Mary, I'm going to say at least 30 years. This is a tradition. It's a long time tradition for our community to do that.
I might add that the high school orchestra was there, the high school choir, the church choir, children's choir. It was a beautiful service.
It was.
Nothing else? Reports of the village manager.
We got a bunch of stuff coming, folks. Downtown tree lighting this Wednesday, November 22nd, 4 to 5 at the Village Center. So please come out if you can. We're getting ready to torque up all the lights downtown. So Dan is going to help us with that. But if you can join us, please do. The Chamber is helping us co-sponsor that. Winter celebration is coming up Friday, December 1st. This is the evening at Village Hall. We have the Choraliers and a bunch of folks. So between 5 and 8 p.m., please join us for that. The Winter Market, which is the next day at the Patty Turner Center, 9 to 2 p.m. All kinds of vendors and local nonprofits getting together at the Patty Turner Center, encouraging people to turn out. We've got our boards and commission reception on the 3rd. It's going to be a busy weekend, by the way. In a couple of weekends, we're gonna wear you guys out 3 to 6 p.m. At the Solarium at 570 Lake Cook Road. So please join us for that. And it just, again, a busy start to the holiday season. We always experience it. We always enjoy it. And we're always glad when it's done. So, again, please join us if you can.
So that's the end of our main meeting. I think I need a motion to go into closed session pursuant to 5 ILCS 122C1 and 122C2.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Oppenheim?
Yes.
Trustee Seiden?
Yes.
Trustee Benton?
Yes.
Trustee Berg?
Yes.
Trustee Jacoby?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, everybody. You survived.